Enough madness.
You're not going anywhere, ballerina.
Hey!
I'm not strong enough.
We're prima ballerinas, so don't tell me you're not strong.
If I told you that the next great action thriller isn't about assassins, secret agents, or trained mercenaries, but about elite ballerinas trapped in the middle of nowhere, would you believe me? Because what I just watched from Prime Video genuinely caught me off guard. And the reason it works isn't just the violence. It's who's at the center of it. Uma Thurman is back in action. And not in a nostalgic cameo way. Not in a soft reboot way. I'm talking full intensity, unhinged, psychological, blood-soaked thriller mode. Prime Video just released the first trailer for Pretty Lethal, and from the very first frame, I could tell this isn't just another streaming action flick. This feels calculated, stylized, dangerous. And honestly, if you grew up watching Kill Bill, there's something strangely poetic about what Thurman is doing here. The film follows a group of elite young ballerinas traveling to what could be a life-changing competition. They're on their way to the prestigious Budapest showcase, a performance so exclusive that only the absolute best dancers in the world receive an invitation. For these girls, this isn't just another recital. This is everything. Their careers, their futures, their validation. And then the rain starts pouring. Their bus breaks down in the middle of an isolated forest. No signal, no nearby town, just darkness and uncertainty. That's when they stumble upon what seems like their only option for shelter, a roadside inn run by Devora Casimir, played by Uma Thurman. Now, here's where things get interesting. Devora isn't just some random innkeeper. She's a former ballet prodigy, a woman who once dedicated her entire life to the art, a dancer who chased perfection until something broke. And from the moment these young performers walk through her doors, you can feel it. Something isn't right. The trailer opens deceptively calm. The dancers are hopeful, anxious, excited about the Budapest showcase. But the atmosphere shifts the second they arrive at the inn. Devora explains her past. She talks about the years she devoted to ballet, the sacrifices, the disappointment, the bitterness that lingers beneath her polite smile. And that's when the tone flips. What starts as an inconvenience quickly transforms into a nightmare. The girls realize they're not just stranded, they're trapped. There's a moment in the trailer where one of them says, "No one is coming to save us." That line hit harder than I expected, because this isn't a rescue story. This is a survival story. The ballerinas begin running through dim corridors, searching for an escape. Their elegant white costumes become stained with blood. And suddenly, this isn't about grace or choreography anymore. It's about staying alive. What I love about this concept is how it weaponizes ballet itself. These dancers aren't helpless victims. They've trained for years. Discipline, precision, pain tolerance, balance, control. And when the situation escalates, they start using whatever they can find as weapons. Scissors, box cutters, hammers, even a gun. There's a chilling line in the trailer where one of them declares, "We're principal ballerinas. Don't tell me we're not strong." That right there tells me this film understands its core theme. Strength doesn't always look like brute force. Sometimes it looks like endurance. Sometimes it looks like years of silent suffering transformed into survival instinct. As the tension builds, the dancers shift from frightened prey to something far more dangerous. They fight back, and Devora responds with terrifying calm authority, ordering her victims to be found and silenced. It becomes a psychological war inside those walls. And what fascinates me most is Devora herself. Uma Thurman isn't playing a cartoon villain. She's portraying a fractured artist, a woman whose dreams collapsed and whose identity dissolved with them. There's tragedy under the madness. And that layered approach is what makes this feel more than just another slasher setup. Let's talk about the creative team for a second. The film is directed by Vicky Jewson, who previously helmed episodes of The Witcher Blood Origin. That alone tells me we're getting someone comfortable with high-intensity physical storytelling. The screenplay comes from Kate Freund, and based on this trailer, the script leans heavily into emotional psychology as much as action. Behind the scenes, producers include David Leitch and Kelly McCormick, names associated with high-energy action films like Bullet Train and Violent Night. So stylistically, I'm expecting a blend of brutality and visual flair. The cast surrounding Thurman is also surprisingly strong. Lana Condor, Millicent Simmonds, Iris Apatow, Maddie Ziegler, Avantika, Michael Culkin. That's a lineup that brings both mainstream recognition and serious dramatic range. And the dynamic between these young performers, especially considering their internal rivalries, adds another layer. Because here's the twist I find compelling. These 5 ballerinas don't even like each other that much. They barely speak on the bus ride. They're competitors first, teammates second. But when survival becomes the goal, they're forced to put years of rivalry aside. That emotional shift is going to be crucial. The film was previously titled Ballerina Overdrive, which honestly feels more grindhouse. Pretty Lethal feels more refined, more ironic, more elegant in its violence. And I think that title change signals a tonal evolution. The movie is set to premiere at SXSW in Austin before hitting Prime Video on March 25th. That festival launch tells me the studio has confidence in the material. They're not quietly dumping this. They're showcasing it. Now let's address the elephant in the room. Uma Thurman returning to action. For years, she stepped away from the genre after Kill Bill. She didn't want to be typecast. She avoided repeating herself. And I respect that. But after appearing in The Old Guard 2 for Netflix, she described it as restarting her acting engine. Pretty Lethal feels like the next step in that resurgence. But this isn't The Bride 2.0. This is something different. Devora isn't a revenge-fueled warrior seeking justice. She's something more unstable, more tragic, possibly even more frightening because of that unpredictability. There's something haunting about watching an iconic action star embody a character whose physical talent once defined her, only to see it curdle into obsession. It almost mirrors Hollywood itself. Youth worship, obsession with perfection, fear of irrelevance. That thematic layer makes this more than a simple horror thriller. Visually, the trailer balances elegance and brutality. Ballet shoes stepping into blood. Hall was lit like a stage performance before descending into chaos. The contrast between grace and violence is deliberate, and if the film commits fully to that aesthetic, it could carve out a unique space in the action-horror hybrid genre. What also stands out to me is the tonal mix. There are hints of dark humor woven into the horror. Jusen mentioned wanting to explore the highly specialized skills of a ballerina within an action framework. That's such an intriguing concept. These are athletes trained in precision and discipline. Watching that translate into combat could be visually stunning. And here's where I want to ask you something. Do you think audiences are ready for this kind of genre blend again? We've seen ballet-infused horror before, but rarely with this level of action emphasis. Drop your thoughts below because I genuinely think this could spark debate. What I appreciate most is that the ballerinas aren't portrayed as helpless. The script explicitly shows them adapting, weaponizing their environment, transforming years of physical discipline into survival tactics. That empowerment angle could resonate strongly with audiences. Pretty Lethal arrives on Prime Video March 25th after its SXSW debut, and I'll be honest, I went into this expecting something gimmicky. Instead, I walked away intrigued, because beneath the blood and tension, there's a story about ambition, about identity, about what happens when the thing that defines you disappears. That's compelling. So here's my take. If the film balances its horror, action, and psychological drama effectively, it could surprise a lot of people. If it leans too heavily into chaos without emotional grounding, it risks becoming forgettable. But right now, based on this trailer, I'm cautiously optimistic. And I want to know where you stand. Are you excited to see Uma Thurman return to a darker action role? Do you think the ballet survival concept works, or does it feel too experimental? Let me know below because I'm watching this one closely. As always, I'll be breaking down more trailers, industry shifts, and hidden details you might have missed. So stay locked in. This is Screen Radar, and I'll see you in the next deep dive.